Hello everyone. We have been discussing history of English literature for with the benefit of students, those who are preparing for UGC JRF NET as well as state eligibility test of different states. And at the same time, those who are preparing for MA English course admissions and research common entrance tests of different universities in the country. So today we are going to discuss one of the major literary periods in the history of English literature, that is the Romantic period. We know the Romantic period is between 1798 it has started and ended in 1832. So what are the important elements from this period and how it has started? Whether it is started exactly 1798 or the features are there before it was. So we know that the age began 1798 with the first edition of Wordsworth lyrical ballads and ended with the first Reformation Act in 1832. However, it is worth noting that the science of Romantic literature came into the view around 1785 when William Blake started writing his Songs of Innocence. So that is the first point we have to identify 1785 how Blake has written Songs of Innocence. That is also another important feature, the beginning of Romantic period. You know, this period is also called revival of Romanticism because these romantic ideals of Elizabethan period revived during these years. So that is another factor. We know how lyrical ballads has brought about the great change in literature, both the subject and the style, that we have to identify how the lyrical ballads has brought the change. And at the same time, instead of urban people and a grand style, the literature in Romantic age talks about rural people and a common language were preferred. So it is these are all introductory parts for the age Romantic period. And what are the factors? What are the factors influenced the writers to write literature as well as to produce excellent works during the time of Romantic period? The first part, we have to accept after French Revolution, it was accepted that every individual was free and on at the same time equally important. And second point, small industries disappeared and large industries with huge capital has started during the 19th century, beginning of 19th century. This factor is also helped the writers. Another important factor is machines were widely introduced in coal and iron mines which multiplied the productions. So these productions are also, the multiplication of productions also helped the people to understand the change. Another point, as we discussed in the previous age about the steam engines were used ships as well as trains. The train was first introduced particularly in this period, that is 1830. We know that the first train introduced in 1830. So this is also another factor to write literature. We know that industrialization has created lots of slums. That is the factor we have to understand. So the slums, we identified child labor as well as labor problems also we could sense during this period. We know that the traditional social pattern started changing during this particular period, we have to understand. And at the same time, we know how we discussed about Scotland in the previous age. So this period, Ireland is also was united with England in 1801. That is also another factor. At the same time, we know that in what happened in 1829, that is the emancipation of Catholic emancipation was passed and religious equity was ensured. That is also another factor during the time of Romanticism. We know that use of machines in the fields of industries made a large number of women jobless. Of them, many became, so when they became jobless, naturally they became either readers or writers. That is what we have to understand. These are all the factors. Whatever we discussed, the factors are all helped the writers to produce excellent literature in Romantic period. So with these influences, there are many number of writers we are going to discuss. Who are the important writers from this period and what are the important works written by themselves. The first one, William Blake, as we discussed in the previous years also. So William Blake, the popular works, Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience are also popular. He has written those two books in this particular period only. And at the same time, we discussed about lyrical ballads. So this particular period, Romantic period, started with the publication of first edition of lyrical ballads. It was written by William Wordsworth. And at the same time, the prelude and other poems also written in this period only. So another popular writer, Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So his book is Biographia Literaria, is also popular from the Romantic period. There are other writers, as we know that Jane Austen, she was known as anti-romantic novelist in the Romantic age. That is the factor we have to understand. She is called so because of her stern attitude against youthful passion. Her works are, Jane Austen's works are, known works are Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, Mansfield Park and Emma are the popular works of Jane Austen. We have another important writer, Charles Lamb, the popular work of Charles Lamb, the Essays of Elia, the last Essays of Elia. Both are popular in the Romantic period. As we know, William Hazlitt, he was known as famous critic of this particular period. There are other writers like Lord Byron. One of the popular writers of this period is P.B. Shelley. So P.B. Shelley is also known as popular writer from the Romantic period. And at the same time, John Keats also belongs to Romantic period. So we know how John Keats' works are popular. These are all popular writers from this period. So what actually these writers are discussing? What they have written in their works? Main literary features which we are going to discuss. Few important literary features which they have discussed in these writings. We know that they are all popular poets of this period, as well as popular criticism has also brought from this period. We know the great novelists also came from this period. Even though creative enthusiasm reached almost the level of Elizabethan creative force. As we know, creative in the sense in the history of English literature, Elizabethan is known for creative. Romantic period is also known for creative force. It shifts its focus from earlier age, faith in reason, to faith in sense, institution and imagination came in this period. Subjective poetry, as we discussed in the previous ages, subjective poetry replaces the objective poetry of the neo-classical age. That is also another feature from these writings. It values natural man and rejects artificial urban life as subject of poetry. So that is what we have to understand. Another point is the language of common man, not the artificial poetic diction of the previous age, become the choice of this particular time. You know, it idealizes country life and nature becomes a means of driven relationship. And myth and symbolism get prominence in this particular period. So lyric poetry is also dominates. These are all the features we could sense, we could identify in the particular Romantic age. We know from woman fiction flourishes, particularly this period. At the same time, criticism becomes an inseparable part of literature. So we have to understand during this particular period, Romantic period, criticism is also became part and parcel of literature, as Wordsworth, Coleridge, Shelley, Lamb, Dickens, Hazlitt, they all contributed for the criticism, particularly this period. These are all the literary features we could identify during the time of Romantic period. Thank you.